Lesson 86, Number Families. So we're going to go over the different number groups that we have. One is called counting numbers. In parentheses, put natural numbers. Sometimes they are called natural numbers. And those numbers are 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. So I always remember if I said to you, count to 100, you're just going to start at number 1 and count till you get to 100. So counting numbers, we always just start at 1. Then we have what's called whole numbers, and those start counting at 0. And whole is spelled with a W, but I sometimes think of the other word whole, that's just like a hole in the ground. And if it's circular, this 0 reminds me of a hole in the ground. So whole numbers have a 0 in it. I know, I think of really weird things sometimes. Integers are all of the positives and their opposites, so all the negatives, positives, and 0. So I think of a regular number line where we just number each number on the number line, and it would be those numbers that we label, as long as they're the integers and not decimal numbers or anything like that. So rational numbers, these are numbers that can be written as a ratio. And if you remember, a ratio is another word for a fraction. So they can be written as a ratio of 2 integers. So if we have a box with all the rational numbers in it, we have numbers like 1/2, 4/7. Inside that box, we also have all the integers, because all the integers can be written as ratios, like -1 divided by 1, -2, 0, and so on. Those are our integers. Oh wait, I didn't want to include the 0 in there. Take that off. -3. Okay, inside the integers, we're going to count all of our whole numbers. That's where we start at 0. And inside the whole numbers, we have all of our counting numbers. So 1, 2, 3, and so on. So if you notice, this box of counting numbers is also inside the whole numbers. So whole numbers include all the counting numbers, and integers include all the whole numbers and the counting numbers, and then rational numbers include all of these. Outside of the box, we have what's called irrational numbers. And these cannot be written as fractions. Actually, as fractions made up of integers. But we'll just put cannot be written as fractions. And that would be, for instance, square root of 3, pi, any of those numbers that have decimals that are non-terminating and non-repeating. And then imaginary numbers, we'll go over those later in your life. We don't have to worry about those right now. These are all the real numbers between rational numbers and irrational numbers. You're going to have examples that tell you to graph certain sets of numbers on a number line. So for example, if you had a problem that says graph the integers that are greater than 0. So if we remember, integers are these negatives, 0, and positives. So the negatives are not greater than 0. 0 is not greater than 0. But 1 is greater than 0. 2 is greater than 0. 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we draw an arrow that shows it's going to continue in this pattern. So we don't shade a line because we don't want the fractions, we only want the integer values. So we just put a dot on each number that's bigger than 0. Okay, that's the end of this lesson.